Good evening, everyone, and welcome to a regularly scheduled meeting of the Penfield Zoning Board of Appeals. This meeting is being video recorded and is being broadcast live on the Town of Penfield's website, penfield.org. Also on the Town of Penfield's Government Access channel, 1303, and on streaming media devices such as Roku, Apple TV, and Amazon Fire. Search Penfield TV in your device's app store, and you'll find that it is free. If you would like to address the board on any public hearing matter, there's going to be a specific public participation opportunity for each matter after the board responds to the applicant's presentation with its questions and concerns. Anyone that is viewing the public hearing remotely and likewise wishes to address the board can do so by phoning in a comment at 585-340-8771 or by submitting a comment or question electronically at penfield.org. Tonight's meeting is going to start off with our work session. We have some regular agenda items to take care of, and then we'll see if there's any parts of any applications that need some clarification for the board members. After that, we'll go right into our, hey Pete, right into our public hearings, and we have tables set for the applicant and then another table for witnesses, which Andy will point out at appropriate times. We have some applicants appearing electronically tonight, or?
We do have
one,
yes.
Okay. So we always like to point out every month that we think the town does a good job of letting citizens know that applications are going to be heard, so that citizens in regular times and in COVID times can come in or somehow reach us out, as I just said, reach out to us to voice their opinion on a particular application. The town does that by mailing postcards to neighbors if you live within a certain distance of the subject property, by having the applicant post a sign about the size of a for sale sign on the property, by posting the agenda online, and here at the town hall as well. We encourage people to speak their minds. It helps us do our jobs, and we certainly welcome it. With that being said, I'd ask everyone to rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance before we start. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, and again, before we start, I'll just remind folks at home or wherever they are watching or listening to call with comments 340-8771 or online at penfield.org. So, proceeding to our agenda tonight, let's see. We have some minutes from the July meeting that been distributed. People have reviewed them. Any comments or a motion on those?
I'll move to approve.
I'll second.
All right, we have a motion to approve the minutes from the July meeting and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? No. Okay, unanimous. All right. So let's, I don't think we have any tabled items, so let's just go right to tonight's applications and see if we have to clarify anything before we start. Application number 1, anybody have any questions for clarification there? How about 2? Sweets Corner, no. 3, Plank Road. 4. And 5. Well, that's a good sign. That means we have very clear and thorough applications that we've all had the chance to review, and no need to clarify anything. So let's get right into the public hearings. If we could have the first application, please.
Mark A. Pandolf, 1851 Clark Road, Rochester, New York, 14625. Requests an area variance under section 250-14.3 of the code to allow an addition with less setback than required under section 250-5.1-F1 of the code at 1851 Clark Road. The property is currently or formerly owned by Mark Pandolf and Bonnie Ciolini and is zoned R-1-20. SBL number 123.12-1-27. This is application number 21Z-0044.
Okay, one thing that I should have said is that what we've been doing with this new format, and it's worked out pretty well, is we ask the person speaking to give us name and address for the record, and then the board member that's assigned to the particular application will lead the applicant through, and then, of course, applicants will have a full and fair opportunity to present it. We just find that's a little bit more efficient. After we've read through the applications, we have a really good sense of the details and what's being requested. So we'll do it that way, and we'll continue. But again, I want everyone to know, feel free to say anything relevant to the application that you would like the board to know. So if we could just start with that. Are you two here together on the application? Both. I feel a little bit like Judge Wapner. You went to separate tables.
Well,
Everyone knows who Judge Wapner is.
We'll see what happens after the hearing, but
Okay.
we came in together.
All right, very good.
My name is Mark Pandolf, 1851 Clark Road, Penfield. Actually, I'm currently living at 135 Yarmouth Road in Rochester, New York, which is just down the street. And this is my fiancee, Beth Remus. And
Okay.
do you need to know her address as well?
If you're going to speak.
She's, she may, if there's questions.
Well, you go ahead and give your address.
Okay, I live at, oh my gosh, where do I live?
Wow.
7504 Fisher Road in Ontario.
Relax.
Yeah. Okay, so go right ahead.
Thanks. So it looks like tonight you're, well, one, it's a very thorough application. Renderings are great, clear. It's very nice, very nicely done. Just to confirm, we're looking for a 14.33 foot variance, or, I believe to the 50-foot front setback. Is it pretty accurate to say that the proposed changes to this structure, I think it's an 1890s home, will create improvements to the area and the lot and the property itself?
Yes, sir, absolutely.
And currently, the existing home is already out of compliance for how close it sits to the road. So is it safe to say there's really nothing you could do to the front area of the home that wouldn't require a variance?
Correct, and I described that in the application, but yes, I could expound on that, but yes.
Okay, thank you. And right now, it looks like for what you've done for the proposed addition is you're trying to minimize the amount of setback required by pushing the addition towards the back, and really you're trying to connect the two, I guess, with a connecting structure that needs the variance. Is that accurate?
That is correct.
Okay. And then for the addition and I guess any changes, it's going to be in character, similar look in terms of, colors, and, it's not going to be anything wild that's going to stick out different from the existing property?
That is correct.
Okay. And I see you guys were in front of the planning board. They did submit a letter in support of the requested area variance. I guess you guys have gone through the planning board and have done that process as well. So we did receive that. And I do also want to say we did receive a letter from your neighbor directly across the street, I believe, who did encourage the zoning board to also grant this variance. So we have received two letters of support for this as well. Are any other neighbors aware of what's going on at the property?
Not, we do have rentals. There's a lot of rentals around so I'm not, and there's a new couple, kitty corner. I haven't met them yet, and then the house to the north of us just went up for sale. So
Okay.
I haven't had contact with the other neighbors. The Jamesons across the street I know pretty well, and shared the design with them.
Perfect, thank you. I think for the most part, those are the main pieces that I had to point out. The fact that, the home is out of compliance right now where it sits. Anything you would have to do towards the front of the home would require a variance. And it looks like from what I see on the plans and your designs, there isn't a whole lot of other options for how you could connect an addition to the back without really making it. And I think that's because I think you're describing the application. It's because of the way the house's interior is right now. In order to connect to something, you'd have to come out the side of the house and not to the rear because it wouldn't work out via the floor plan.
Correct.
That's a good picture that's up there now.
Yeah.
And I just wanted to add, you didn't do anything to make the house out of compliance. It's built years and years and years ago, and it's many homes built that many years ago are closer to the road than would be allowed if they were built now. So Before we ask you if you have anything further to say, does any other board member have a question?
No, I don't. No.
Okay. Again, I think your written application was thorough. Andres covered a lot of the important ground, but feel free if either of you have anything to say, and then we'll open it up to anybody else.
There's no phone call there.
Right now, I don't see any comments electronically or on the.
Well, I guess, so I'm not sure if there's anything that, I don't want to have to go through the whole dog and pony show if you all understand the design. We've been working on it for 2 years. I looked at, I'm an architect myself, and I looked at, obviously, the first thing was not to get a variance. What can I do to not get a variance? And wrestled with the floor plan, and it really, it made a lot of sense that this layout, although it requires a variance, accomplishes the needs of improving the property, improving the site, and in many ways minimizing the variance because only a portion of the addition is in front of the 50-foot setback. If Andy, perhaps you could pull, of the renderings, I think it's the second rendering of the, I don't know if you have it in one file or the next one. So this kind of tells the story. The left is the farmhouse, 1890. There's nothing on the exterior that's currently original. The roof's been replaced, siding, windows. I actually peeled back the siding. Hopefully, was hoping to see some old clapboard siding from 1890, but they tore that off too. So we're going to turn it back into a farmhouse with horizontal shiplap siding, clad wood windows, 2/2 farmhouse windows, standing seam metal roof, and this view of the rendering shows that it's very important to us to save the farmhouse, renovate it, identify it, and then have an addition, and then carefully, strategically connect them, which is what this shows. And you'll notice, too, that the original house is also taller than the addition, so the addition isn't overpowering the original house, and it actually steps down, the roof lines step down. So this, if I could hit home one aspect, is that it was important, very important, that the original farmhouse is saved, restored, and strategically connected, thoughtfully connected to the addition.
Well, actually, I think you accomplished that pretty well. All right, any other questions? All right, again, I don't see any call-ins. I don't see any electronic submissions, so I'll open it up to anybody in the audience here live. Care to comment on this? Okay, now's your time if you want to comment. I'm not saying you have to.
I'm just ready for it to happen.
All right, very good. Okay, then we'll proceed with the consideration. If start with the environmental seeker.
Sure. So this is a type 2 action requiring no further review under seeker.
Okay, we have a second from Marie on that, after Andres made the seeker motion. Any further discussion on that? All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? No, okay, unanimous. And now on the merits?
On the merits, so for this, what do we got, 14.33 foot setback, I'm going to make a motion to approve this. I think it's the applicant and the application and in person tonight really met the burdens there. The home is out of compliance right now. The addition they're asking for is actually behind, or they're actually asking for less of a variance than where the house sits now, I guess, if I say that correctly, that they're stepping it back, so they're trying to get the least amount possible that they need based on what they have. They didn't really, this is a hardship they inherited. They want to put an addition on, and I think they've done a good job in working around that to try to ask for the least amount of variance possible. It's going to be, I think, probably brought more into the aesthetics in terms of what the period was for back in the 1890s by changing this, the siding and bringing it back to the way it was. So I think they'll definitely stay in character with the area as well. So that's what I have.
I'll second that.
Okay, well stated. We have a motion to approve and a second. Any further discussion?
I just wanted to point out, I'm familiar with this particular property. I had a cousin that owned it back in the late 70s, and I watched it gradually get shabbier and shabbier looking, so I really welcome this. I think he did a great job with it.
Thank you.
Well, that's a good comment, too. All right, so we have a motion to approve and a second by Matt. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? No. Okay, good luck.
Thank you so much.
Good job.
We really appreciate it.
You're welcome. I'm a little bit curious about what's in the box, but not enough to.
I brought all the building materials in case
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Number 2.
McMahon, LaRue Associates, 822 Holt Road, Webster, New York, 14580. On behalf of Richard and Mary Montgomery, requests an area variance under Section 250-14.3 of the code to allow a larger storage building than permitted under Section 250-5.1-F12A of the code at 1492 Sweets Corners Road. The property is currently or formerly owned by Richard and Mary Montgomery and is zoned RA-2, SBL number 125.02-1-2.1. This is application number 21Z-0045.
Okay, thank you. And again, before we start, anyone outside of the building that has a comment can call in 340-8771 or electronically at penfield.org. May we have your name and address, please?
Good evening, Al LaRue, McMahon LaRue Associates. Tonight, Mary and Dick Montgomery are here to answer any questions you might have of them. What we've tried to do, and in our application, that storage building in the rear was built when it was all combined, one parcel, 35 acres. Now they'd like to create a homestead parcel and still preserve as much land as possible around it for future development when and if that were to happen. The 50-foot variance is well within the limits of the screening that's there today, and that's the reason for the configuration of the parcel. So that'll remain, and the look is to the northeast. So we're not impacting anybody. Then there will be no change to the neighborhood. Nobody will even see it, and I'm sure they don't even see the building at this point. So that's our plan, and
Thank you.
I can answer
Sure.
any questions you might have of me and or the Montgomerys.
I have a few questions. So obviously that building has been built and it's already there. And
It's there, yeah.
So and you can't shrink that building. The building is the size that it is, correct?
That's correct.
And it would be a great expense to take down the building.
It would.
So the only other way in which you could come into compliance with the code and not seek a variance is to make the lot size that it sits on that you're subdividing bigger, correct?
That's correct.
So, and I know in your application, you say that you're reserving enough land for 15 2-acre plots at some point. Do you have plans now to subdivide or to construct homes or?
We don't.
Okay.
We know the zoning code is 2-acre zoning, and so what will remain is 31.6 2 acres or 31.7, that sort of thing, to the right-of-way line. And so we know that there's a little bit of a surplus, but whenever, and that's, our business is development and engineering and site engineering, that sort of thing. We know that it would be impossible to develop the parcel in exactly 2-acre parcels and do a good job with the layout. So there's going to be some give and take on that. So the 1.6 acre surplus is a good thing to have. And we thought that in this situation, that that the 50-foot rear setback to a storage building, that's not a farm building, that's a storage building, was in keeping with what he's mowing, Dick is mowing right now, today. So it was a pretty easy number to pick for a rear setback.
So the path that I want to go down for a little bit is this issue of the surplus. So every square foot that you add to this homestead parcel, as you referred to it, would require less and less of a variance, correct?
That's correct.
So is there any portion of that 1.361 surplus that you're withholding from the homestead lot that can be added to the homestead lot to make it come more into compliance? I understand you want to reserve a surplus so that you can have these 15 2-acre parcels, but is there any part of that that you can add back into the homestead lot to get it more into compliance?
The 1.6 acres is a very small percentage of the overall, so that it would be difficult to do. Certainly, we could add 5 or 10 feet to it, and it wouldn't change it would still keep a surplus. And the reason we picked the 50 was because that was what was occupied today, and improved with a mowing and that sort of thing. So there's always a little bit of give, but.
What would be the financial impact of having 14 rather than 15 lots?
Right now, a 2-acre lot in Penfield, a raw 2-acre lot approved, is running around $80,000.
So about $80,000.
Yeah, $80,000. So it's a critical issue to save as much land as possible when it doesn't impact the neighbors or the overall parcel itself.
Do you mind, Matt?
No, go ahead.
Is another possible solution to request variance to make other lots a little smaller in the future? Not a lot, but a little bit smaller, because what you're saying about it's not going to affect anybody and it's there now and it's not going to change, that's all true. The issue, I think anyway, with the variance is it's a large variance that you're requesting. And you can mitigate the size of the variance request by making your proposed 2.65 acre lot a 3.5 acre lot. Because now you're more in compliance with the code. You have a bigger lot, you can have a bigger building. And I heard you answer his question, I think, but I'm not sure that it answers that issue. It seems to me to be candid, and there's nothing wrong with this, but it seems like this is a financially motivated variance request for the most part. So, okay, that's understandable, but let me ask you, are there any engineering reasons why you cannot make that 2.65 acre lot a 3.5 or 4 acre lot? Or make it large enough that it's in compliance and you don't need the variance? Engineering reasons.
No engineering reason. The only reason would be that I would think it would be very difficult to get on a development where the 2-acre zoning, and going in, buying it, whoever is going to purchase the property, if it in fact does get purchased, the remaining lands, knowing going in that they've got 31.6 acres of land and the zoning is 2 acres, my feeling is, and I've done a lot of this, a lot of variance work, it would be nearly impossible to get a variance for any of those lots. So we know we've got a little bit of room, but we're trying not to have it be too tight. And as I said, we can make it, instead of 50, we can make it 60. It seems irrelevant, that little bit of difference, but we're trying to save as much land as possible because I know that there will be no variance granted for lot sizes in the future.
How do you know that? I mean, you might be coming in front of this board.
Yeah, I may be, but I wouldn't like my chances.
Well, I guess I understand where you're coming from, but if I'm hearing your answer correctly, you would ideally like to have 14 or 15, whatever the number is, other 2-acre lots, so that when you do, or whoever buys it and develops it, is going to start with the ability to maximize the number of other lots on the property.
That's correct.
To some extent, it would be a stronger argument if you had a buyer now that
Right, which is
was
why I
making
asked that
argument.
question.
Yeah, I mean, it's almost on an if-come kind of thing.
Right.
The way it's being presented now.
And they don't have one at this point.
What what happened at the planning board? Does that have to
They
do-
tabled it pending the outcome of the zoning board decision.
Did they issue any memo, one way or another?
Not for this one, no.
They did not.
Did you guys ask them to issue a memo, the planning board, whether or not they would support this?
We didn't, but during the meeting, there was no opposition. It was a very short meeting. They had very few questions. We've answered all the PRC comments that were given to us, and it was a pretty simple. It was about a 10-minute presentation, and they tabled it waiting for this meeting.
All right.
Pete, is there anything you would add to that description of the meeting?
There was a discussion among the board because they had issued a letter of recommendation on the other application that you heard tonight, and they decided they would not do that for this particular application. I don't think that there was a uniform agreement amongst the board members about how they were feeling about it, so they did not want to weigh in.
And I'm sorry, you do have another date with them?
We will have to have, right, because
But
it
it's
was
not
tabled.
scheduled now? Because was it just sketch plan you went in there for, or?
No, it was preliminary and final,
Okay.
but it was on the 12th, so we've got another, I don't know what the schedule is, September sometime.
Okay.
They did table it, Dan. Yeah.
So we're on the next meeting, so
All right.
pending the outcome of this hearing.
Go ahead, Andres.
I've got a couple comments, maybe not so much questions, but I noticed one thing that I looked at the property line and how it relates to the trees, and I know you spoke to that fact that no one would see it, but it looks like the proposed property line is quite close to the tree line edge. So if, in a sense, if the other parcels got sold off around it, there'd be very little tree line. That buffer would get much narrower, and potentially then you would see through it, because it looks like based on the lines, it's very close to the internal edge of the trees and not the external side of it, not really preserving the trees and the buffer.
We're not preserving the entire tree. No, you're right, but we're preserving some of it.
Okay, yeah, and that was just one of the statements you made that it wouldn't be visible, you wouldn't see it, and if you take away a lot of it, I wonder if you would then. And then more to the comment of it wouldn't affect the neighbors if we approve this variance, but if we had 14 or 15 parcels surrounding it in the future, which is why this is being done, and they all asked for the same variance of putting a building on there, then I guess we say it's okay here, but we would then say, hey, it's okay, we did it here, then we set a precedent for saying that could happen around the entire property as well. And I guess that's my fear for that, because if it is subdivided into 2-acre parcels, and this is a little bit over 2 acres, what's to stop anyone else from asking for, accessory structures to the back that are this large?
Right. I given the fact that there isn't any current buyer out there, and you do have an application pending before planning board, and I would support a motion to table this and ask for input from planning, which they're usually not shy about giving. I'm a little bit surprised, but any event, it's your lead on it, so.
No, I don't think that's a bad, a bad idea. It just all seems a little.
It's perfectly logical, it's totally understandable, it's there, it's been there, it looks nice. None of those are issues. It's just the size of the variance requested is substantial, and as we know, that's one of the factors that we have to consider Along with, are there things that you can do to mitigate and reduce the variance
Like
request?
take extra land, even if it's going to cost
Yeah,
$80,000.
yeah, so,
Potentially $80,000 in the future.
Yep. In any event, anybody else have any questions or comments here? I don't see any phone-ins or electronic submissions, but I will ask if there's anyone in the audience that cares to speak about this. Okay, and anything further? I don't mean to cut you off, okay.
No, I'm all set.
All right, well, then, if you want to table it, then we can hold on to seeker at this point, right?
If you're going to table it, you don't need to address the seeker.
And I'm not telling you what to do.
Dan, would you like to take the lead on this one?
Sure, well, I'm glad to make a motion to
No,
table.
I'll make a motion to table it. I think that's a reasonable.
Oh, come on up.
Well, I'm Dick Montgomery. I met Mike the other day. And I don't understand all of this happening here. But tabling it seems to me that we don't get very far, and then we table it, and then we don't get very far, and we table it again. What could we do to keep it moving rather than?
Well, I'll try to answer that. First of all, we rarely do applications in front of this board go beyond 2 meetings. I think that's a fair statement. I've been doing this for a lot of years. So take comfort in that. From our standpoint, honestly, this is not a very complicated application. And at least in my mind, it's that one issue that we are bound by law to consider whether or not this is a substantial variance request, and frankly, it is. Now, that doesn't mean that we have to say no. It just means that we have to take into consideration other factors. One of them is, what can you as the applicant do to reduce the size of the variance you're requesting? You know, for instance, I'll give it, if it was a setback variance request and you're supposed to be 15 feet away, but you want to be 10 feet away, we might say, well, can you live with being 11 feet away? That would be something the applicant could do to reduce the variance request. What could you do? You could make your proposed 2.65 acre lot bigger, larger, and that would reduce the results of the variance you're requesting, because the size of your outbuilding, permissible size, is based upon your acreage. There's a formula now. And what is it, 1%? It's 1%. 1%. So if you have a bigger lot, you're allowed a bigger building. It's that simple. Now, you may come back and say, there's no way in the heck we can do that. We've made reasonable engineering efforts. We've looked into it, the subdivision from a fiscal, financial standpoint, and it's not reasonable for you, zoning board, to push us to make the lot. Now, of course, we would have to make a decision on that, but I guess table it for a month gives you an opportunity to consider that, and if you come back and you say, we've rolled up our sleeves, there's nothing we can do, we've sharpened our pencil, we're sticking with the original application, so be it. And then at the same time, hopefully before our next meeting, you'll go back to planning, and staff will communicate with them about our desire to get a little bit of input from them. As somebody, I think Andy, you said the prior application, we had a memo?
Yes, we did.
Yeah. It was sort of a similar application, and they issued a memo saying, hey, zoning board, we recommend you approve it. So, not that, again, that's determinative, but it's helpful. It's a factor that we consider.
So we should have asked for that?
No, I'm not saying you should have asked for it, because honestly, it's the sort of thing that they kind of do on their own frequently. If they feel comfortable doing it and they have enough information, maybe they weren't aware how far along you were, your application's thorough, it's clear. As I said, I don't consider this to be a complicated application at all. It's just a large variance request. So, let's see what we can do to shrink the size of the request, and if it's nothing, it's nothing.
And frankly, we have nothing in front of us that says another month is going to make a difference.
That's true, too.
Right.
It's not.
There's no sale pending, there's no.
I mean, it's not something that's time sensitive.
Yeah, that's a fair point as well. So I hope.
One
Yeah.
point in not your problem, but my problem is we will leave for Florida before that all gets done, so.
Well, there's nothing stopping you from appearing electronically from Florida. Except probably nice weather and fun down in Florida. But we kind of have that here a little bit.
Yeah.
So, but you're welcome to do that, but you don't, there's nothing that says you have to be here in person. Okay?
I guess.
All right. Again, I'll ask anyone else in the audience. And once again, nobody on the phone or electronically. So did we take a vote on that?
No,
Probably
we
not.
didn't.
All right, we have a
Second.
motion to table,
I'll
and
second.
and Mike will second that for the reasons stated. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? No. Okay. We will see you next month, but feel free to communicate with staff as soon as you can.
Great. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Thank you. All right.
Ready for the next one?
Yes, please.
Parrone Engineering, 349 West Commercial Street, East Rochester, New York, 14445. On behalf of Joseph Scofaro, requests area variances under Section 250-14.3 of the code to allow an existing accessory building that is larger than permitted under Section 250-5.1-F12A of the code, with less setback than permitted under Section 250-5.1-F12B of the code on lot number 1 of the proposed subdivision of 1623 Plank Road. The property is currently or formerly owned by Joseph and Paula Scofaro and is zoned RA-2, SBL number 096.03-1-69.1. This is application number 21Z-0046.
Thank you, Andy. And before you guys start, if I could just again remind the public, if they wish to phone in a comment or question, 340-8771 or electronically at penfield.org. So if you would please introduce yourselves and give us your address, and then I think Marie will start with some questions.
Yes, I'm Dave Stair. I'm with Parrone Engineering, Vice President, and I'm with the owner. I'll go back, 349 West Commercial Street, East Rochester, New York. The owner is with me, Joe Scofaro.
Yes, Joe Scofaro, 1402 Salt Road.
Okay.
Currently, the property is owned by Joe, as we all know that, and the farmhouse is an existing farmhouse on the corner, 1623. It's on the corner of Plank and Salt Road, with an accessory barn already existing on the property. The configuration of adjoining lots or parcels requires a 200-foot minimum, so I'll speak specifically along Salt Road at this point. There's only 411 feet, and it's a 200-foot frontage. So we're giving what's shown as Lot 2 the 200 feet of frontage. It's required. However, that creates a hardship with the side setback on the barn. It's required to be 50 feet for personal use. It's not going to be a agricultural livestock use. So if we were to shift that to get to 50, we're going to need the variance on the Lot 2. So we've left it that we'll look for the variance with the barn. It's 50 foot. The existing barn would be 39.4 feet, so it's slightly over a 10-foot request. With that is also, because of the size of the barn, it would require a lot size of 3.7 acres roughly, and that would push the lot back so far that the remaining parcel would not be desirable, if you will, for future splits, which I believe Joe is going to look at doing sometime down the road, unknown when. So we're asking for a relief of 7/10 of an acre to put 3 acres on this corner parcel. I believe Joe can speak on this, but I believe they do have a purchase offer on Lot 1 in the 3-acre configuration, as long as the zoning board grants the variance that we're asking. And subsequently, we'd go to the planning board, make application, and get their approval as well.
Thank you for coming this evening. I feel like we were just here.
Yeah, well, a year ago.
Yeah.
For a barn, but we retracted that.
Okay, because
barn.
last time I heard this was going to be years down the way that you were going to look at
Yeah, well, my
subdividing.
mom made a decision back in March
Okay.
to sell the, excuse me, the family farm of 55 years, so, sorry.
That's okay. Take your time.
So, we've accepted an offer on 3 acres, and if this goes through, then we'll have very young people moving in, so.
When was this barn built?
Over 100 years ago.
So the barn was it built at the same time as the home?
I think, yeah, with the original home, yeah. My dad had, over the years, enlarged the home, but yeah, with the original home.
Just out of curiosity, what are you doing with all your stuff?
We're yet to figure that out.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
Well, I may be back again for a barn on myself, again. So.
Now, you're aware that the variance that was granted back then doesn't carry over?
No, we've retracted that.
Okay.
Yeah,
All
we've
right,
retracted
so you're
that.
clear about that.
Yeah.
What I'm hearing you say, Mr. Stair, is that this was the only way you could do this with making sure that it was compliant. Lot number 2 was compliant with the 200-foot frontage. Is there also the 200-foot frontage requirement for Lot 4? And,
It would require that or a flag lot.
okay.
So if another lot were to be cut from Lot 4.
I see what you're saying, right. You'd have to push it so far back, and it would be a very narrow entrance, okay.
Correct.
So in your estimation, there was no other way that this could be done?
We looked at other configurations, and they really, because it's on the corner, the length of Lot 1 would not fit the neighborhood, if you will.
Sure.
Continuing east, there are a few residential homes that front the lot, or front the road, excuse me. So-
We would have preferred to do a 2-acre lot on one, but after several conversations with people with the town, they said it probably wouldn't be allowed, so that's why we shot for the 3 acres.
Okay. So it's a variance of 297 square feet. Did you ask any of your neighbors if there was an issue?
Well, we had last year when I went for the barn, we were going to build back behind 1404.
Correct.
You guys have tabled it, and they sent an email or called, and they were okay with it. So this time I went over.
Good job.
They're fine with it. They're fine with it. So, and
Okay.
of course, I talked to my neighbors across the street, but they're across the street, and they said, whatever, so that's really the only neighbor that, and then, of course, my mom, she wants it all. She wants to head to Florida, too, as the last couple did.
So the board is aware, Joe currently resides on Lot 3.
Correct.
Right.
There's a structure there.
Yes. So in my mind, this is a fairly straightforward application. And lots of times we're asked to do things like subdivide, and so it kind of looks all the same even though the lines change on paper. I don't have any further questions, but does the board?
Just a comment is, we just finished with kind of a similar application, so we've had sort of like 3 in a row. The variance request for the size of the building here, which is existing, like the last one, is a lot smaller than the one that,
Right. This is a lot smaller. It's also a barn that is right up front to the road.
right.
So kind of is what it is, and the road is what it is, and that doesn't really change.
We were hoping, because they're making the road bigger next year, that they would have moved it or something with us to get it away from the road, but that never happened, so.
Okay. So I just wanted, but I think to Dan's point, there is a distinction between this application
Yes.
and the previous application.
Okay, any other questions from the board? No? I don't see any call-ins, excuse me, or emails. Anyone in the audience care to speak about this? Okay, great. Well, then let's proceed with the consideration, first starting with the environmental.
Sure. So I'm going to move that this is a type 2 action pursuant to seeker requiring no further action.
I'll second.
Okay, so we have a motion under seeker, type 2, made by Marie, and a second by Matt.
Okay.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Oh, you
Okay.
wanted to vote on it? No. All right, yes, and then.
Now she wants her applications just to go right through.
That's right. So on the merits of the application, by the way, this was a very thorough application. Thank you very much for your presentation. I'm going to make a motion to approve this. This is a common request to look at subdivision of property lines. I will say that this is not changing the physical appearance right now of anything. The barn stays where it is, the house stays where it is. It certainly is in keeping with the character of the neighborhood. I don't see any adverse impacts being created. I do appreciate your going to your neighbor. You know, again, this is a pre-existing building, so you kind of have to work around it as best you can.
I'll second the motion.
Okay, so we have a motion to approve by Marie with the reasons she stated, and a second by Mike. Any further discussion? All right, all those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? No. Okay, good luck.
Thank
Thank you
you.
very much for your time.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Okay, number 4.
Peter Massong, 1441 Hogan Road, Webster, New York, 14580. Requests an area variance under Section 250-14.3 of the code to allow a front porch with less setback than required under Section 250-5.1-F1 of the code at 1441 Hogan Road. The property is currently or formerly owned by Peter Massong and is zoned RA-2. SBL number 111.01-1-13. This is application number 21Z-0047.
Okay, and Mr. Massong, you're appearing virtually tonight?
Yes, I am, if you can hear me.
Can hear you. Yep. Go ahead and just give us your name and address, and then board members will have some questions for you.
All right, my name is Peter Mason. I live at 1441 Hogan Road.
Thank you.
Thank you. One question to start with. Your application listed that you were looking for a 1.8-foot variance because your porch was going to be 7 foot sticking out from the house. Then the most recent plans we received showed it as 8 foot, meaning you need a 2.8-foot variance. Can you just clarify what we're looking for tonight, please?
That is correct. Initially, when I submitted the variance application, that was my thinking when I was building this, these improvements. I have since engaged an architect, and that was his recommendation, was that we go to the 8 foot, which is that latest drawing that I submitted. So, and that makes sense. I mean, for a porch to be, you know, a foot wider, I mean, a porch, 8 foot wide porch would be, I'll say, comfortable. I don't think it will be encroaching on the road that much.
Okay, thank you. Were there any other design considerations that were found that would allow you to put a porch on the front of your house without needing a variance?
The only thing I could think of is I put a 5 foot wide porch. If I put a 5 foot wide porch on there, then I would stay clear of the variance application.
Okay, but there's there's nothing else feasible without needing a variance to put a porch on the front?
Correct.
Okay, thank you. And this, in your proposed drawings and things like that, it looks like the house is going to have similar siding and color, the roof will be the same, is that correct?
Absolutely.
Okay. Have you spoken to any of your neighbors, and do they have any issue with this variance or this porch?
They have no issue at all.
Okay, thank you. It's pretty straightforward. I think, in terms of the size, I think this is what, it's a, 2.8 foot variance. I think will be okay. I don't have any further questions.
Anybody else have questions from the board?
I'm good.
All right, I don't see any phone-ins or electronic submissions. Anyone in the audience care to speak about this? All right, so let's go right into consideration. Start with the environmental.
Okay, I'm going to move that this is a type 2 action requiring no further review under seeker.
Okay, I'll second that. So Andres made the motion under seeker and to declare it a type 2, and I seconded it. Any further discussion on that? All those in favor? Aye. Let's go to the merits.
Sure. I'm going to move that we approve this 2.8-foot variance as detailed in the plans most recently received. In terms of, a variance being required, there's really not much other options that were found that can be, put into work here out front with the amount of variance he needs, and it's actually not very large. His home is already set back, which most homes we have when they want to put a front porch are usually right at the property line. So one nice thing is this already is a little over 5 foot back from the setback lines. It's not going to be out of character. It looks similar to what's already there. I think it blends in well. In terms of the siding, the roofing, everything else is going to be very similar. And there are no detrimental effects found from this variance being granted.
Yeah, the only thing I would add is, a 5-foot porch is not, it's not a big porch at all, so
it's a
I
hallway,
get that.
yeah.
So we have a motion to approve. Did we get a second?
Second.
Maria seconded the motion to approve. Any further discussion? All right, all those in favor? Aye. No opposed. Okay, good luck, sir.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it, guys. Goodbye.
Okay, last application, please.
Nicholas Agnello, 36 Rundell Park, Rochester, New York, 14607. Requests approval for a conditional use under Section 250-13.3 and Section 250-5.6-C1C of the code to allow the operation of an art gallery, residence, and arcade showroom at 1676 Penfield Road. The property is currently or formerly owned by Nicholas Agnello and is zoned limited business. SBL number 139.05-1-56. This is application number 21Z-0049.
Okay, if you both could introduce yourselves, give us your names and address, and then the board will have some questions for you, and you'll be able to fill in whatever you like.
Hi, my name's Nick Agnello, and I live at 36 Rundell Park, Rochester, New York.
My name is Greg Grillo. I currently reside at 231 Bayway Drive, Webster, New York.
All right, thanks.
So we have in front of us, you're asking for a conditional use permit or a special use permit to allow a change in use. This was approved back in the 80s and has been a tailor shop in the front with a dress boutique with one apartment up above, and I believe there was a tuxedo rental and tailor shop in the rear, correct?
Yes.
You're going to leave the buildings externally the way they currently are, is that correct?
Correct, except for some painting and cosmetic changes, obviously.
Right, but I mean, you're not adding or subtracting from the structures themselves?
Right.
Okay. And that you want to use the front for an art studio and gallery?
Correct.
And with 2 apartments above?
Can I elaborate a little bit?
Sure, absolutely.
I didn't know how this was going to go, so I had a whole spiel worked out, but...
Yeah.
Hold on one second. I want to make sure we can pick them up on a...
Yeah, maybe we can move the easel closer.
Just put the easel right next to
I mean, we could probably, the only difference is that I highlighted...
Just move the easel closer to you.
Yeah.
I know the property like the back of my hand, so I probably don't really need to look at the drawings.
If you want, just
I
take
think you
that
got to speak in the microphone.
Yep.
Pick the
Okay.
microphone up, yeah.
Yeah, so you're looking at, the right side of that is the front, what used to be the dress boutique. And what I'm hoping to do, pending zoning approval, is to utilize the downstairs, which is not highlighted in blue, as an art gallery connected to like a studio, a large studio apartment or a studio. So that would be separate from the blue areas. Now, everything indicated in blue that's designating the second apartment, okay? So prospective tenant would walk into this common area, and go into that first lower level room, which would serve as a den or laundry area, and then venture up the stairs to the apartment proper. That's the second floor, second apartment. And that would be a sizable apartment, hopefully a luxury apartment, if we can do a good job on it, with it, that will have a kitchen, living room, bathroom, bedroom, and an exceptionally large hallway area, actually, which could serve as a living space as well. So everything you see in blue is the second unit that I'm hoping to implement. Okay, so this is, and this would serve me well because I do need the income to be able to facilitate my dream of opening up a gallery. And just, I know you don't need to hear this, but just so you know a little bit about me, I'm a Rochester native, and if any of you have had a chance to go down to the Port of Rochester, you'll see some large-scale paintings. Back in 2005, the then Mayor Johnson initiated a contest to try to garner support for the Fast Ferry Port of Rochester project, and I was fortunate enough to be chosen for that. And so I do have some paintings in there. I've done some other public work. I've been an illustrator and artist all my adult life. So I'm hoping to bring some of my art and maybe ask some of local folks to bring some of their art into the studio, and I think we could have a nice array of stuff. So that's, and I kid around, and I like to tell people that I'm one of the few people that actually made money on that whole port deal.
Maybe the only person.
I was able to buy my first house with that, with a down payment. But at any rate, that's who I am. And so in essence, we're looking at 2 apartments with an art gallery that's connected to the lower apartment. And as far as parking goes, I don't know if you need to address this, but there's easy access to the property.
Yeah, we do.
You're looking at approximately 14 or 15 parking spaces. And it's heavily treated. It's a beautiful property. You're probably familiar with Casella's tailoring business. I've had my eyes on that property for 5 years, and it finally went up for sale, and I couldn't resist. So we're hoping to bring something unique to the area. And so, we're looking at about 2,500 square feet. And I'm estimating that the upstairs apartment with this one room downstairs would probably be at least 1,000 square feet minimum. And then we have the rear building, which is about 1,200 square feet. And that is, we've already done a lot of cosmetic work in that building, and it looks great, and we're, looking good there. And if you'd like to ask Greg, my nephew, anything about that?
I'd kind of like to divide it into 2, if it's okay with you.
Sure, sure.
And talk about the front building first. What type of hours would you anticipate you'd have for that gallery?
Initially, I do work full-time right now with a property company, a small property company. So the actual opening for me, for the gallery, probably won't happen until spring, first of all.
Yep.
At the earliest. So I'm not rushing to implement that too quickly. I want to make sure this is done right, of course. And the hours would probably, we'd start with weekends for sure, and there would be limited business hours. I would, at least for the first couple of years, probably not be able to have a full-time schedule, although that could change. That could change. I'm winding down from my current employment, and I'm hoping to segue back into art full-time, which is what I used to do a few decades ago.
So approximate hours, if they were open, daytime?
A week?
Yeah.
Let's say 20 hours.
Okay. And are you going to be the only employee, or you're not your own employee, but I mean, you're going to have employees?
Initially, I will be the only one probably working there, but I do hope to have hire at least one additional person or have someone else that could help while I'm out in the field doing paintings up at or over at Channing, is it Channing Philbrook? It used to be Lanier Park.
That's right.
It's a favorite spot. It's a favorite spot of mine. I've had some nice results with some oil paintings in that park. But hopefully I'll be out in the field and I'll be able to have someone. I'm still looking for a wife, so you know maybe I'll get lucky and.
Well, I don't know how we got off the topic about the hours of operation, but that's all right.
That's my specialty.
Yeah. Wow.
All right. So, and you know, it doesn't sound like you anticipate this to be a lot of foot traffic in and out, at least initially.
No.
Okay.
No, but hopefully my popularity will increase and there'll be some,
Sure.
increasing.
Yeah, hopefully. That's true. What about, is there going to be any change to exterior lighting, or what's there now, I guess?
The lighting?
Yeah, on the outside.
Yeah, I would like to maybe add some lighting to the front facade of the building. There is a light, and I've got to check this out because I'm not sure it's operating properly. There is a light that illuminates a planter box that already exists in the front. And we are, just to mention this, we are utilizing the former signage formats that existed when Casella was there. He had a big sign across the front. You probably can see it in your mind's eye.
Yeah.
And we're utilizing the planter box. Actually, that's, the planter box and the back building will have another sign as well.
Right, on the building mounted.
But as far as lighting goes, I wouldn't mind enhancing both buildings for that matter with some kind of illumination, but I've got to give that some more thought.
But you'd be sensitive to the fact there are residences in the back.
There are residents in the back, and I have had the opportunity to meet Dave Speedy, who owns the plaza, and he's trying to sell me the parking lot in the back, but I don't know that I can afford it right now. But yes, I do see the residents in the back.
And there's a buffer there anyways, and then mostly businesses towards the front.
Right.
Some apartments, but you're not talking about any significant lighting, are you?
No. Even, it is obviously a heavily commercial district, but there are, like you said, there's a neighborhood right behind us and some apartments across the street. I think it's Penwood and another complex. No, it's a great area.
Yep. Okay, let me go to the back building. Hi.
Hello.
So tell me a little bit about what you're going to do there.
So my plan is, if I could start with a little bit of background.
Sure.
So I'm 23. I'm the third generation owner of my family's company, Flower City Amusements. We've been servicing the Rochester area for just over 80 years now. My grandfather and his brother were the founders of the company. They put amusement machines such as pinball machines, arcade games, shuffle alleys into local businesses. Some included the Humphrey House, Shadow Lake, Shadow Pines, Empire Lanes, Olympic Park in the 70s and 80s. My dream is to keep my family's dream alive. Currently, I do put arcade machines on location. But what I'd really like to do is open up the first vintage arcade and showroom in the Penfield area. My current setup, I am set up there. It's not open or functioning, but I do have arcade games inside of the facility right now. 7 pinball machines, 2 skee ball lanes, 4 shuffle alley lanes, 14 video arcade games, and 2 electronic dartboards. So my goal is to open that up to the public, to have families come in and view the games as well as play them. Bring back memories for who grew up with it, and introduce a new hobby to people who haven't.
So are you going to run this as an actual arcade?
Yes.
Not selling the machines out of there primarily?
Not primarily, no.
And when would you do this hour-wise?
Because I also do work full-time, I work at a hospital, so I would be looking to do it mainly on Friday evenings and Saturday throughout the day.
Okay, and how late would you be open on the night?
No later than 10 p.m.
And how big of a capacity do you have there for people to go in?
It's approximately 1,200 square feet.
So how many people customers could you comfortably fit in there at one time?
I would say at least 10 families of four could fit in there comfortably.
So 40 people?
Yes.
Okay. And are you going to have any music inside or out?
Just as background music, nothing.
And how loud are these machines? When there's, now I know how loud they are individually, but if you got
Not everybody
20 of them
tilted
going.
the machines
That's
when we were
true.
young.
Yeah. I wasn't going into how whacking the sides of them when you get frustrated. But no.
They're barely, they can be heard from the parking lot, but it's not, for me, it's not an overwhelming amount of sound.
Would you be keeping doors open?
No.
So they'd be closed, but you still can hear them?
Slightly, yes, I would say, yes.
How about to the neighbors and behind? I mean, there's some buffering there.
I don't think they would be able to hear any sound.
And I don't recall there's windows to that side either, is there?
There's
The back?
three smaller windows.
Okay.
It's a pretty far distance there,
Yeah.
it looks
Yeah.
like, yeah.
Okay.
I do have some additional media if anyone would like some, just with some additional history.
Sure, if you
Go
want to
ahead.
offer it,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Okay.
Parking, Mike, you want to, I mean, that's a lot of people.
Right. Yeah, how are you going to account for, first of all, are you going to mark the parking spaces?
Yes.
I mean, it's kind of an open area that's not very well delineated. And how many cars can you park there at one time without interfering with the front business?
I think our plan was to share the parking situation, if possible.
Okay.
If not down the road, I would like to purchase the parking lot in the rear and utilize that as well.
Can you get 10 cars in there? You're talking about,
Yes.
10 families of 4. What do you think, what would be the maximum number of cars you could put in there without, again, interfering?
Possibly, I would say probably 10.
10. And you're going to have those marked out?
Yes.
And that's okay, obviously, with you, Mr. Agnello?
Yes, that would work. We ultimately would like to pave the parking lot. It's not presently paved, so the marking out is, we're going to have to do that probably with some kind of a posting system,
Yeah.
as opposed to delineating marks on the...
Well, because you could get into a safety issue if it's just a free area where anybody can go in any direction. So,
Right.
Is there something we could do to have the town look at that?
Yeah, there is. Just to be clear, you're not talking about using any parking owned by Speedy, right?
No, I just threw that in about the parking
No,
lot, yeah.
I understand, because if I'm looking at this...
Although that's a good idea.
Well, yeah, I'm not sure that the parking spots to the north of your building, is that the right direction, Andy?
Yes. To
So the
rear?
parking spots to the north, where his cursor is, those aren't part of your parcel?
No, he used to lease them out, and we are contemplating purchasing, if I'm thinking of the right spot, there's a section right behind the property.
Yeah.
I could probably work something out with him.
Well,
but-
I just wanted to point that out, because somebody watching may think that those parking spots, because they're behind your building, are part of your lot. But the parking that you both will need combined, you're both confident that there's enough area, unmarked, but enough area in your lot to accommodate your tenants, your visitors to your gallery, your visitors to your amusement.
Yeah, I believe there would be. I think I mentioned that there is probably about enough space for about 14 vehicles.
Okay.
Maybe more.
Yeah, I guess it wouldn't be, maybe put something in that they'll work with the town engineer to make sure the parking is sufficient and safe.
Yeah, we would need some kind of a parking layout plan, and the planning department would have to
Yeah.
take a look at
We
that.
can make that a condition of it.
Okay.
So would you be doing birthday parties and things at the arcade?
Down the road, yes.
Are you going to be serving food or drink or anything?
I would not be serving, no.
Do you have a plan to get a liquor license?
No.
Or?
So people would bring in pizza or catered food, whatever,
Yes.
that would be the plan, okay.
So I'd prefer to put some type of limit on hours, with the idea that if you needed to change it, you could come back, but we kind of left it open-ended. So I think from what you're telling me, on the weekends, 10 o'clock would be your max?
Yes.
And probably would open what on a Saturday?
Approximately 2 o'clock p.m.
2, so the afternoon so 2 to 10 on Saturdays,
Yes.
Sundays?
Just Saturdays for now.
Nothing on Sundays? What about during the week?
Definitely, I was thinking Fridays 6 p.m. to 10 p.m.
Okay.
And also possibly Thursdays from 6 p.m. to 10 p.m.
Okay. All right. So we can put that as part of that'll be acceptable to you as part of the permit?
Just had a quick question.
Sure.
You said that you still place games in certain areas?
Yes, if a location calls me to request an arcade game, we
Okay.
do deliver them to that location.
Okay, is your storeroom, is the arcade also a warehouse?
No.
No, okay.
It may look like that, but I guarantee it's not.
So somebody wouldn't come there to look at the selection that you have to purchase one wholesale?
There could come a point in time where I may be looking to sell a machine from the arcade, but mainly they're not there to be sold.
Okay. Do you have other machines that you sell other than those, or?
Not currently.
Okay, yeah. All right, and then back to Mr. Agnello. Hours for you? You want to put something in? I think we should put something in for the permit.
For the gallery?
Yeah, for the gallery.
Yeah. Well, let's start out with weekends, Saturday and Sunday, I guess.
Yep.
Say 11 to 6 would work.
Okay. Weekdays, nothing at this point? Nothing, no hours during the week, or?
Not at this point. I'm fully employed right now, but over the course of a year, maybe a year down the road, that may change, and I might, like I said, segue into this more full-time, so.
Okay. And we can make this for a year, Andy? Or or does he just come back when he's ready to expand?
I guess you can put any conditions on it you'd like. I'm not sure. Pete could probably answer that better.
Yeah, well,
it's a
if we have a
conditional use.
resolution has those hours and everything goes great for the both of you, and you say, geez, we want to be open more, just come back. Everything's going well, there's no safety issues, there's no overcrowding, you're not having any fights with your neighbors, they're not complaining about loud music or loud people maybe cursing when the pinball doesn't, although I know Mike is a pinball wizard, by the way. Remember, you knew I was going to get that one.
I did, I knew that was coming.
But, so, we do that, things go well, you need expanded hours, just come back.
All right, great.
Right.
We have the veterinary hospital next door, so there's a lot of dogs barking additionally. So. Not really.
I've got one question. Would you guys ever have any kind of special events where you might need different hours in terms of things? I was just thinking in terms of Mike putting that on there, could we also put, an occasional special event once a week or every month? Or I'm just thinking that if you have a gallery, you may have a need to have alternative times, and I'd hate to constrain you all of a sudden where you're...
I haven't fleshed out that thinking, but I'd like to think that I would have the flexibility to be able to do something, make changes like that at some point in time. So, but initially, it could be a little more adhering to
That's a good point, and I personally wouldn't mind deferring to staff on that, assuming that it's an occasional and that all the considerations we've talked about have been sufficiently addressed before you say yes.
Okay.
Everybody okay with that?
Sure, yep.
Because that's kind of a neat thing, maybe even combine the uses to have an event.
All right, that's all the questions I have.
Any other questions from the board? All right.
If I have a question, so just to be clear, that we're not doing the.
I said from the board, Andy.
All right, sorry.
Go ahead, jeez.
We're not limiting it to a year approval.
No.
We're just, okay.
No. Come in as needed in the future. No call-ins and no electronic submissions, so let's proceed with the application consideration seeker.
Yep, I'm going to move that this is type 2 action under seeker requiring no further review.
Second.
Okay, so we have a motion by Mike under seeker to declare it type 2, and Marie seconded. All those in favor? Aye. No opposed? Okay, and the merits?
I'm going to move to approve this, this conditional use permit. I think the businesses are small in scope, at least as currently planned. I think they go well with that particular area. Actually, they're not as intense as with the tailor shop and the, I don't know about the dress boutique, but at least the tailor shop. So, and it's fairly well buffered. It's in a limited business area. I think it fits in well with the area. So for those reasons, I would move to approve.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion to approve by Mike with a second by Andres, assuming the conditions that we've talked about throughout the night will be part of the resolution. Any further discussion? Okay, all those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? No. All right, good luck.
Thank you.
Good luck finding a
Hard work
wife.
pays off, and, good for you guys, so good luck.
Thank you. Appreciate
Okay.
it.
That was the last application, if I'm not mistaken, so we will stand adjourned until the next meeting. Thank you all very much. Another good job by all of our electronics folks. Thank you.
Good night.
Bye-bye.
Night.